We're gonna have a 15-minute meditation, and then we'll do a talk and then discussion as normal. So if you want to get cozy, comfy, we have extra mats, cushions. Make yourself comfortable. Honestly, if you wanted to lay down, there's room for it, and I wouldn't fault you for it. No surprise here, we're going to be exploring in our meditation today, practicing with time. So if you want to close your eyes, or if it feels more safe, a gentle gaze on the floor in front of you. Just giving ourselves a moment to really arrive in our bodies, arrive in the room. Maybe taking our first deep breath of the day. We can do it collectively with a big inhale through our nose. And exhale. Maybe a couple more times if you want to really roll the shoulders up and down the back with the inhale. And exhale. Let them fall. Feeling what that does for our nervous systems, how it feels in our bodies. Meditation will begin and end at the sound of the bell. Starting with a brief body scan at the top of the head, easing any tension here. Maybe imagining what it would feel or look like to have our brain settle, to just really remove the stress of the day. Finding ease behind our eyes, in our jaw, our mouths. I have a tendency to hold my tongue on the roof of my mouth, so if that's you, maybe let it settle. Moving down into our necks and our backs. Feeling the tension ease as we breathe in and out. Finding an expansion and openness in our chest. A softness in our bellies as we inhale and exhale, releasing any tension that might be held here. Feeling our arms get heavy as they sit in our laps. Feeling the cushion or chair as it holds us. There's no right or wrong way to be or feel in this moment, just being open to whatever might be here. And as we take this time to arrive, tonight we're going to be using the breath as an anchor, but with a special sort of connection to maybe the rhythm of the breath and the mind. Noticing, what do our minds do as we breathe in and out? Do we feel a desire to rush the breath? or control the breath? Is there an aversion to the breath? Whatever might be arising with each inhale and exhale, just sitting with it, giving it the space to arise and maybe fall away. Noticing, is there a rhythm to the mind? Are there thoughts that want to make themselves known? Is there an effort to control or manage whatever this experience might be? And if so, giving ourselves the grace and compassion to just let it be. Maybe exploring as we arrive more fully in this space, other sensations that might be coming up, the temperature or the sounds, and how are our bodies reacting to that? Is there a desire to get through this quickly, or to slow it down? Can we notice how the mind will try to manipulate the present moment? And if so, just giving it space to be exactly how it is. And as we deepen our practice, there are a couple of phrases that we can work with. The first being, I have all the time I need. I have all the time I need. And the second, freedom can be found in setting things down. With the inhale, I have all the time I need. Freedom can be found in setting things down. Using these phrases as an anchor point as the mind or the body tries to take control. I have all the time I need. Freedom can be found in setting things down. Using whichever anchor feels supportive, both or one, and practicing with them for a minute or two. What might come up, or what is coming up, in the mind or the body as you say them. I have all the time I need. Freedom can be found in setting things down. And if the mind starts to wander, as it does, thank it for whatever it might be drawing your attention to, but return to the breath and to the phrases just for a few more moments. I have all the time I need. Freedom can be found in setting things down. What does it feel like to be here, to be present for this experience? There's no rush. No one's asking anything of you in this moment. You don't have to be or show up as anything. Just right here, breathing, knowing that you have all the time you need. Can there be space or joy found in setting everything else down right now? I have all the time I need. Freedom can be found in setting things down. We'll spend the next few minutes in silent practice. The meditation will end at the sound of the bell. So like I had mentioned, tonight's talk is on not having enough time, but more specifically, I'll be talking about dukkha, which is suffering, and the second arrow. I was talking with Andrew last week when we had the week off, and I was just saying there's so many things that I want to accomplish in a day, and that list is never ending. The things that I want to do in life, and how there's always just this like lingering cloud of disappointment that I'm no closer to doing all of those things, that I've accomplished nothing, and that my list just only gets deeper. I'm never checking anything off in a way that I would want to. And that seems to be like a never-ending cycle. This isn't like a new thing. It's not a season of like, oh, only just now, in the last 6 months, I'm really struggling to get things done. It's like the constant pressure of life, of feeling like there's always more to do. And I know that I'll never magically get more time in a day, regardless of people saying that, you know, we all have the same amount of time in a day as Beyonce. I just like don't believe that. And I know that's just not how time works. There's 24 hours in a day, and there's nothing I can do about that. And so I know that this is like a normal struggle and a part of life, and it comes with growth and wanting to change and wanting to seek out and achieve new things. And so if all of that is true, and I understand all of that consciously, why am I suffering so much? Why is this so hard? Why is it something that I continue to sort of reflect on at the end of each day? And is there a way that I can approach all of this that can give me even an ounce more ease, an ounce more freedom mentally, to experience less suffering? And so tonight we'll be discussing the types of dukkha, or the types of suffering that the Buddha sort of laid out, and which ones show up most in relation to time, as I was reflecting on it anyways, and how the second arrow impacts our relationship with time, which I'll go over what that is, and how we can find some ease. So first, we're going to review dukkha. Dukkha is the Pali word for suffering, and it's something that the Buddha talked a lot about. It's the first noble truth in the Four Noble Truths. He states that the dissatisfaction with life is described as suffering, dukkha. And he expands on the description of dukkha into sort of like 10 types. There's birth. Yes, birth is a form of suffering. There's suffering inherent with coming into existence, into life. There's trauma that happens there. Aging, physical decline, the sorrow of growing older. Illness, pain, injury, chronic or otherwise. There's suffering in the form of death, the fear of it, the grief, the loss. There's suffering described as sorrow, emotional pain and sadness. Lamentation, which is a more of like an anguish feeling. There's just general pain of like physical suffering, like I am in pain sitting here. I'm not, but if that was the thing. There's distress and displeasure, so the mental and emotional unpleasantness. There's separation from love or association with the unlove. There's a type of suffering that comes when you're separated from something that you love or enjoy, and then there's a dissatisfaction with being removed from it or being with something we dislike. And then there's not getting what one wants. So the frustration of thwarted desire. I don't know if you knew that there were that many types of suffering, but there's a lot. There's a lot of different ways to suffer in life. And as I assessed sort of what felt most relevant for me in relation to this conversation of time, number 10 stood out the most. So a suffering of not getting what I want, which is more time. There's never enough. And the suffering of all of the thwarted desire of all the things that I was expecting to do with all of that time, or the lack of time that I have. And it makes me think of like watching water boil. Like anytime I'm doing something I dislike, it's like watching water boil. Like the time just drags on, or like that cartoon, the things that they show in cartoons where like the clock even moved like backwards. That's like what that feels like when I'm doing something I dislike. It's like, could this take any longer? Laundry, dishes, like it never ends. But when I'm doing something I love, time like races. I blink and it's gone. How could doing something I dislike take hours, but the thing I'm liking take minutes? And that's what it feels like. And it makes me think of a common sort of Buddhist teaching phrase, is that it's not the thing, it's the relationship to the thing. Ajahn Sucitto, one of our favorite teachers, says, when desire tightens, time feels short. When desire relaxes, there is enough. And so when our relationship to time is built on the craving or aversion to what happens within that time frame, it's never going to be enough, right? Like, we know that we're not going to get any more hours in a day. And so when we're filling that day full of craving or aversion to whatever might be happening, time is never going to feel enough. There will never be enough time if I am craving more or being adverse to what is happening. And then that starts to trickle on. The enoughness of all of it starts to trickle into my perception of self. I'm the one doing the thing or not doing the thing or not doing enough of the thing, or I could be doing more. Since I can't do enough in my day, I clearly am lacking in some way. So now it's not just about the time, it's about me. And so when Ajahn Sucitto suggests to relax our desire, it's not necessarily a suggestion to stop trying or to give up on pursuing goals or to just let go. I hate that Nike phrase, like, just do it. Like, just do what? Like, nothing in my life has ever felt like that. And so I'm not going to just set down whatever I might be craving or desiring or having an aversion to. But it is an invitation to be curious about the root of what those desires are, to investigate how we might be actively pursuing them and how that might impact my perception of time, or even deeper, the perception of myself. And so this sort of leads me into the second arrow. So we know that time isn't the issue. We can't blame time for existing the way that it does and has and always will. It's our own craving and aversion in it that shapes how we live. But there's also another layer of suffering that we add to this complicated relationship with time, known as the second arrow. So the Buddha talks about the second arrow in the Arrow Sutta, and he says, the first arrow is the unavoidable pain of being human, physical or emotional discomfort. These are the things that we would never be able to avoid. We cannot control that pain will happen in a lot of those ways that were listed, the different types of suffering, right? Like, we will age, we will get sick, we will die. All of these things are unavoidable. However, the second arrow, he says, is the additional suffering we create through mental reactivity, meaning the resistance, the fear, the anger, the rumination, aversion, and identification. The Buddha says the untrained person is struck by two arrows, while the trained practitioner feels only the first. And when I first learned about the second arrow, I thought it was so powerful. I did not know that there was like so much agency in the suffering that I was experiencing in that way. Sometimes life feels like it's just happening to me and that I have no control, or that things are sort of spinning wildly and I can't catch a break. But knowing that there's sort of the second arrow, it gives me the ability to reflect inward to how am I sort of doubling down on the experience of suffering in my life? How am I sort of digging my heels in and just making it worse? And I don't view this as a sort of spiritual bypassing. It's not to say you're the cause of your suffering, of everything that happens in life, But I did like that there was some control, as a person who loves control, that there was some control that I had in being able to reflect on my own experiences and to be able to maybe change them. And so I'm curious, does any of that sound familiar, right? The resistance of time slipping away, slipping through my fingers, the fear of not having enough time, the anger when we don't get more, the aversion of there being too much or too little, and the identification that comes through the experience. And so I want to be clear, it's normal to share these struggles. It's normal for me to go to my partner and complain about how it never feels enough. That's just being human, the experience of being human. But the second arrow requires more of a interpersonal, or rather internal reflection inward to how I might be contributing and in what ways. For me, it's the internal disappointment that I carry to the end of each day, every day. That is one of the second arrows of my life. There will always be some part of my reflection at the end of the day that seems to be a form of a disappointment. With each sort of wellness ritual that I don't get to do, I didn't get my lemon water and meditate and stretch and do yoga and like all of the things, there's a layer of suffering that grows. When I can't deep clean my house every other day, because that seems so realistic, there is a layer that grows. When I'm not as productive at work and I didn't do all of the things or go above and beyond, another layer. When there are happy moments that I cling to desperately, can this just stay forever so I can avoid the challenge that I know will be ahead? Another layer. And so this list of desires that I have coming into each day will truly never end, nor realistically would I want it to. A healthy part of life is having goals and dreams and, trying to be different versions of myself, healthier, better, whatever it may be. But it's when I start expecting to fit all of those things on my list into a singular day, week, month, year, that layer, the second arrow of suffering, slowly starts to form over time. And there are a million moments in a day, throughout the day, where these things occur. You might say, well, of course, that's life, Olivia, get over it. You know this. And while consciously I know it, my mind is formed and shifted and seeks insight from external stimuli all the time. If you look up one wellness thing, your algorithm is going to feed you all of the things that you need to do, and all of those things are going to contradict each other, and then you're going to have to sift out which one is right or wrong. And so my mind is trying to learn new things, trying to grow and support me. And so it's not as easy as just knowing that that's happening. Ajahn Sumedho says, wanting things to be otherwise is the very root of suffering. And that you don't get to have what you want to be happy, which sucks. What the hell? That's the teaching. You don't have to get what you want to be happy. Isn't that the whole point? And Ajahn Sumedho often points out that the wanting mind is the source of the second arrow. So it's that part of my mind that is craving the desire or the newness or the things that leads to the second arrow suffering. And so where can we find some ease? How do we shift our relationship to the thing in order to find space and freedom? When I was discussing this talk with Andrew, his suggestion was to fucking stop doing it. Thank you.
Stop doing what?
Just stop doing it. Stop having an issue with time. Just get over it. Very insightful. No, just kidding. But what I would suggest is to hold our expectations for time more loosely. So I don't know about your mind, but my mind creates like maps and routines and templates and the lists, and all of that can be a supportive tool that can help sort of engage us and challenge us in life. But if we hold them with too tight of a fist, unable to move or flex or change, they're suffering. Can those maps and tools and templates be more of a suggestion than a rule? Can we find a little more space for things to shift, to experience more openness and freedom? And then the next I've sort of named is like no selfing. So when I don't accomplish the unrealistic list that I have in my mind, I will often reflect that as a personal shortcoming. All of it then becomes redirected to me, and I begin to self-identify as being less than or not enough, or if only I tried harder or was better. And so it's helpful to remember in moments like that the Buddha's teaching of no self, which again isn't about not having identity or not being connected to something. It's about knowing that the identity that we're clinging to is also a thing that is fluid and changing and growing. And that the more I become identified with this person who's not good enough, I'm not really giving myself a ton of space to create new identities, to experience new things, or to look at my relationship to time or life in different ways. And the more I can remove the selfing aspect from the inevitable fluctuations of time and all that comes with it, the more freedom I can have. And then the next and the last is let the manager take a break. So a couple months ago, we did a parts work series related to IFS, which is internal family systems. And when I was reflecting on my relationship with time, and I'm not sure about yours, but my manager part shows up a lot. My manager part is the one leading the charge, making sure to navigate the time that I have with as much effort and efficiency and productivity as possible at all times, and it is exhausting. And so instead of holding that part as the leader, the one that's cracking the whip and telling me what I need to be doing or should be doing, can I give them some time off, some paid vacation? Can they just sit down for a minute so that I have the opportunity to pick up a little loving kindness and offer myself some compassion and grace that there is only 24 hours in a day. There are only 7 days in a week. And that's not going to change. But loving kindness can be a tool that we can use to support that spaciousness, to give ourselves more freedom and space and time in what we might be seeking. Tara Brach says, when we are caught in wanting life to be different, we leave the only place where life can be lived, right here. When we are caught in wanting life to be different, we leave the only place where life can actually be lived, which is right here. And so as you head into this month of maybe busier schedules or events or work or life, I hope you take the time, pun intended, take some time to reflect on how you might give yourself the gift of ease, of peace, amidst some of the chaos. Thank you for your time.